Let's Queer Up Entertainment. HBO Docuseries Last Call focused on serial killer who targeted gay men. HBO's latest docuseries examines a rash of murders in the early 90s known as Last Call killings, as each victim was picked up in the middle of the night at a gay bar in New York City. The full episode of Last Call, which premiered Sunday, centers on Peter Stickney Anderson, a banker who lived in Philadelphia at the time of his death, and Thomas Mulcahy, a salesman from Massachusetts, whose body was found in Burlington County, New Jersey. While no one was ever tried for Anderson's death, Richard Rogers was convicted of Mulcahy's murder in 2005, and many believe he is responsible for all 4 killings. He is currently serving 2 consecutive life sentences for the murders of Mulcahy and Marrero, who will be spotlighted in future episodes. Last Call is based on the 2021 nonfiction book of the same name by Elon Green. It covers 3 years during which 4 gay men disappeared from Manhattan, only for their dismembered bodies to be discovered off highways in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. The series interviews investigators who worked on the cases, victims, children, and partners, and queer activists who demanded a more robust response to rising hate crimes against the LGBTQ+ community in the 1990s.
It's in all of us. That fear of being hurt because we're queer.
Thank you, New York, for being so fabulous.
I remember the first gay bar I walked into. I thought, oh my God, I've been missing this my entire life. It just felt like home.
Queer bars were one of the few places where we could come and feel safe.
And then all of a sudden, everything was taken away.
Dismembered human remains were found in plastic bags along roadways outside New York City.
My dad went down to New York on a business trip and never came home.
My brother,
My uncle,
My friend.
he just disappeared.
These were pickup crimes. They were last seen at a gay bar, 5 Oaks, the townhouse.
clearly a serial murderer going after gay men, was on the loose.
It was so frightening because everyone was a suspect.
The queer community was very much trying to push law enforcement to give a shit.
At this time, we wouldn't put it past the police to kill us.
Hate crimes against gays and lesbians are up all over the country.
It makes people feel like maybe they're not safe and maybe a murderer isn't going to get caught.
We were scared. This guy's gonna strike again, then could I be next? Peter Anderson,
Thomas Mulcahy,
Anthony Marrero, Michael Sakara.
They weren't just a statistic. They had their own story too.
This guy was a serial killer for years. Was he gonna make a mistake?
How does someone get away with something like that?
You know, what I was gonna say before this video cut me off was that, you know, these are interesting stories because in these instances, like, people knew that they were missing, right? A lot, you know, historically, what happens is, you know, gay people were kind of on their own. People kind of, you know, disassociated with them, or they didn't have family anymore that could you know, take care of these situations. So they would go missing, and that was it. Like, these murders would go scot-free because no one was looking for them. There was a scenario in Toronto where a lot of Middle Eastern gay men were going missing as well, because they would come, they would get their work permits, and then they would never be heard from again. And this serial killer was just putting their bodies in someone's yard, and no one found them for years and years and years. And so, you know, it's good to hear about this, because I even know now some of my friends who are being picked up at bars, they'll be taken home and then they act super sus. And they're like, I don't know why he's acting this way. Could it be the drugs? I'm leaving. And then you get home and you're like, could I have been murdered that day? And it's just like, we are susceptible to these types of instances, and we just have to be careful. And it's good that these things are kind of coming back to light.
And, you know, I'd like to put this in a little bit of historical context as well. The early 1990s. This was the age. AIDS was at its peak. We didn't really have effective drugs yet that were really widely available. So ACT UP is out on the streets of New York and LA and large cities saying, pay attention to us. And then you add into this is like 4 people over 3 years. So it's really a slow motion serial killer. And the fact that the bodies were found in different places, internet wasn't what it was, what it is now, and it wasn't easy for police to make the connection. So you have to remember, there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
And we were just being so ignored as a community that this sort of got lost, you know, in the middle of all the terribleness that era provided.
Well, and this really does kind of wrap around to the question that you asked yourself, Jonathan, when we were talking about the laws of, you know, why does this matter to me? You know, why do these little kind of legalized discriminations, if it really doesn't affect me, why should I care? Because all of these decisions and the movement of society in that direction puts us right back in that marginalized, easy to pick off, no social connections, kind of a community. So even when it's a story about, you know, the L, the G, the B, or the T, it is all of us, because we can all be pushed into that category of untouchables.
And I want to put it out there too. You guys have already said it, what I was going to say, which is basically understanding what being gay was like in the 90s to the younger generation that's coming out that seem to have no understanding of, maybe they have a little bit of the history, but the feeling of what it was like to see some of this on screen happening at the same, you know, in real life. And I remember, I love horror movies. So I was very much into Dahmer and Ted Bundy and reading all these stories. But when they're told now, they're told through a different lens. Because with Dahmer, until I saw the movie, the series that, what's his name came out with, American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Ryan Murphy.
Ryan
Murphy. I didn't even realize how much of the gay and racial element was a part of it, and how it's so easy to target the people who are the minorities because nobody's going to really be looking for them, and the police are not going to care.
Exactly.
So like, it's such a great, and black trans women, you know, highest murder rate, same thing. You know, if you're a serial killer, the people you're going to go against are the most marginalized that you don't think anybody's going to be looking for. So
and like, and in those times we used to go behind a bush. Like cruising spots were like the only way that we were getting affection. Some of us are still doing it apparently, but we were on drugs. Like we wanted attention, so we would seek it in weird ways or weird, you know, in that time. And then we would go behind a bush, and you would so eat slim pickings.
But now, we all made terrible decisions in our teens and 20s. I'm absolutely sure. And 50s, yeah.
And 30 years now has passed by, and technology has advanced so much that now we can share locations with other people. You know, there's social media, so you can keep track of everyone. You know, I think the most important thing is always checking in with your family and friends, because even today, like, you always see posts on social media. It's like, oh, you know, someone passed away, and because no one checked on them or no one heard from them, you know, in a week, you know, so it still happens today with the amount of technology that we have and how connected we are. There's still those gaps.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ+ community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.